everyone. So today I am talking to the wonderful Cindy Garloch. And Cindy is someone who I met through a mutual friend. And basically, she has a organizing and decluttering business called Simplify with Cindy Organizing. So, hey, Cindy, how are you today?
Hey, good. How are you doing, Jennifer? Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, of course. And, last week we did a seminar together. So I like to partner with Cindy because she has a great business, an amazing business. That's why I wanted to feature her today and have her tell us a little more about her business. But she does have a decluttering and organizing business that helps lots of people in the community. So, Cindy, can you start off? So, how did you even get started with decluttering and organizing? Where did you begin this? Or, where did you come up with this?
Well, I actually went to an organizer's presentation and I struggled with stuff in my closets and my cabinets and my drawers. And I went to this to get some insight and the organizer followed up because my house looked fine, but I was always late because I couldn't find things in my drawer or in the pantry and it took me forever to get dressed. And so I think the third or fourth email she sent said, Your house may look fine, but your drawers and your closets and everything are cluttered. And I thought, oh my gosh, was she in my house? And so I hired her to help me with my closets and my cabinets and my drawers. And then I actually helped a friend out in Tucson who struggled, which I didn't know she struggled. We were going to go shopping and to lunch, and she couldn't figure out what to wear. I said, Let's come up, let me come up there. And she said, No, don't come up here. And I couldn't figure out because I had blocked it out of my head what I had gone through. And so I actually helped her declutter her closet. She still had plenty of clothes left, but we had fun doing it. And she knew I was miserable being a pharmacist, even though it was a good job. I hated going to work. And so she said, you can actually do this for real. I was like, what? She said, organize, help people declutter and feel better about their space and be able to find stuff. And I'm like, there you go. People need help finding stuff because I needed help finding stuff. So within a few months, my company was born.
That is amazing because, when you're talking, I'm like, all of us could use help probably decluttering, organizing, getting, back to the basics. We all have too much stuff. And I remember in our seminar last week, we talked about the average household has what, 300,000 items. And that's like the average household. I mean, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is really crazy. 300,000 items just to give our viewers a glimpse into or to relate to what that is. If you went to Lucas Oil Stadium or any football stadium, probably, and put one item on every seat in the stadium, just imagine that four and a half times. That's 300,000 items. And they're not all the
I mean,
size of paper clips.
it blows my mind. And, so basically, you were unhappy in a career and you saw that there was a need in the community. And, you know, myself as a realtor, we see that need in the community all the time. And where we see it a lot of times is with the aging population or people who are empty nesters now and they have a lot of stuff maybe from the kids and that they've collected and things like that. So, that's what I see. But talk to us, who is your typical client? Or, when we think of decluttering, who's asking for help?
The clients that I work with I specialize actually in working with seniors, women 55 to 75-ish who need help decluttering all the things that they've had for bazillions of years. And they also, so I work with the sandwich generation where they have their parents' stuff, their parents have passed and they got all that stuff. And then they have kids maybe in college or a little bit out of college, a few years out of college that don't want their stuff because they don't have room to take. So they become basically my clients become a storage facility for all their parents' stuff, all their kids' stuff. They're overwhelmed. They want to downsize. They want to move so that they can have a more simple life or one floor or just less to clean, less to take care of, and all of that. And they feel trapped and overwhelmed because they have so much stuff.
Yeah. And that's, of course, actually one of the largest populations right now. I think they said, and I think you mentioned this too, or, I heard it in a class as well. Like in 2030, I think you said this, or there's going to be more of this age of, seniors than there are of younger generations. So again, it's such a big thing that's happening. Lots of seniors are looking to downsize, and I talked about this last week in our seminar. In order to downsize, you really have to declutter. And I think you are going to be the first step. And it's really tough, I will say. When someone says, okay, I'm ready to declutter, what are some of the challenges you run into, though, as someone who's helping someone organize? Are there any challenges you face, like maybe resistance or anything like that?
People call me a lot and I talk to them about their spaces and how they're feeling. They're overwhelmed. They may want to move or they may need to move because their spouse is having health challenges or they're having health challenges and they need to move and they feel trapped because they have so much stuff or they just can't find anything and that sort of thing. But more people wanting to move and just having too much stuff and they don't want to leave it for their kids, so they literally feel trapped. And the other thing that comes up, I'm glad you mentioned it a couple, is safety for our seniors, because when you have stuff everywhere and you don't move it for whatever reason, it just becomes, I'm not talking about hoarder level, I'm just talking about people not be having room to put something or stuff clutter literally in a room and they shove it in there and then they walk in there real fast the next time to put something away and there's stuff. So just decluttering, and you mentioned it earlier, you have to declutter. You have to declutter. You cannot organize clutter. You just can't. You have to be brutal about it. And sometimes
Yeah.
people need that accountability. I'll show up Tuesday at 10, okay, bring can-do attitude and my arms and legs, and we get to work, and they just feel so much better, so relieved. A lot of people don't know there's people like me available to help them live a different life.
It's really funny you say that because I actually think there are a lot of people, of course, you and I just being in the industry where we have a lot of resources, you and I know that these services are out there, but actually, yeah, I don't think everyone knows that these services exist. And from my point of view, when I do talk to older clients, if they knew that this service was available, and of course, I tell them that it's available, but if more people knew this service was available, it would be easier for them to, you know, get help and then, downsize like they've been wanting to. But one of the things that happens is they're overwhelmed. They're thinking, how am I even going to get rid of all this stuff? How am I going to start? So I need to downsize. For example, they have a two-story home. They need to downsize to a ranch with no stairs, but how do they even begin? And so, yeah, I think just educating the public is really important, especially, and you and I were talking about this earlier, especially um, informing children who have aging parents, because again, a lot of times these children don't live near their aging parents. For example, they live out of state or something like that. So, having a resource like you could be so helpful. So, tell me how you help people get started. So, just so people have an idea, you go into houses, and what's kind of the process?
Usually they call me or they will send me an email through my website, or a friend will give them a number or somebody they deal with on a regular basis, and they'll call me and I ask them questions about how they feel about their home and what they'd like to see in their home and all of that. So and a lot of times I will give a complimentary consultation. So they can they can explain it to me, but there's nothing better than actually seeing it in person and talking about their space. They walk me around their home, and it's very interesting because they used to say, most of them still say, I only have 15 minutes, or how long is this going to take? And I'll say 15, 20 minutes, maybe half an hour at the most. And they're like, okay. But then I get there and I'm like a life preserver, because when they can start explaining how overwhelmed they are, and I say, that's fixable, that's doable, we can work on that. Yep, it's all, we can make it all better. they don't want me, they keep me there for longer than a half an hour a lot of times because they don't want me to leave because somebody understands them and can help them and they don't want that person to go away. So actually, when I do consultations, I leave 4 hours after the consultation in case when I ask them, do you want to get started? Yes. When do you want to start? Can you start right now? And not only being a resource, the other thing I'd like to mention is that because I've been doing this for 10 years, I am a resource as well. I love giving back to the community, to organizations that serve their people, their population. And in fact, the other day I heard about several shredding events, free shredding events, because normally it's about $1 a pound to shred paper, and heard about a few free ones. And for one of my clients, I took 5 banker boxes from his house. I'll bring them on it's either the 18th or the 21st. It's from a bank down the street, and I'll just take that, get it shredded for him, securely shredded for him. He also had a couple of bikes. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. There's actually a place in Westfield that I dropped them off called Conquest Cycling, and they take them, they clean them up, and then they give them to people in downtown Indianapolis so they can have transportation. So there's a lot of resources out there for people who need those things that I'd love to give to those organizations so we can help people.
Well, exactly. And, we say this as a joke, but really, one person's clutter is one person's treasure. But really, there's such a relief when these people, do have a resource like you, can get things decluttered, get rid of things, and then in turn, like you say, we are helping other organizations. If someone has extra bikes, for example, like you said, we can send those bikes off to someone else who needs them, extra clothes. I mean, household items, basically anything. So not only are they decluttering, it's something they can feel good about. And that is why I think you're such a great resource because once they know you, you have a lot of resources in the community. You pretty much know where to donate anything and everything. So not just are you helping them declutter, you're helping them give
Yeah.
to different causes. So,
Yeah, and if I
can I?
don't know, I'll find out. There's places
Yeah.
for wedding dresses, for shoes, for slightly lightly used bras. I mean, there's a place that takes them and gives them directly to the population that they serve. And it's even if my clients we have several bags when I leave, if I know there's a bunch of stuff in a certain bag, I do it on my own time just because I feel so strongly about it. That not on my client's time, on my time, I'll rip open a bag and say, "Oh, here's all these school supplies," and offer them to a teacher. There's a whole bunch of gym shoes that can still be used. The kids wear them once and you can donate them to Changing Footprints or whatever. It's just, and then it causes people to have to buy less stuff in general, which means less in the landfills and less is really more, right?
Oh my goodness, that is so true. So, you are an amazing resource for the community. So, if someone did need help decluttering, tell us what areas of Indy or Indiana you serve, and also how would someone reach out to you and schedule that free consultation?
I specialize in working in Hamilton County and Boone County and Northern Indianapolis is my general area where I work. If people need help decluttering, they can reach out to me by phone, 317-442-2450, or they can also check out my website, www.simplifywithcindy.com. And on there, they can check out all my before and afters, testimonials, all that fun stuff, and see who I am. And then there's actually a contact sheet within my website to reach out and say, this is my story, or how can you help me? And I get back to them right away and we get started if we are a great fit.
I love that. And so many people, more people than we are even aware of, need this help. So if you're watching this video, if you have a parent who is aging, so if you're a child of an aging parent, and you know that they need help decluttering, reach out to Cindy. Or, if you are a senior and you need help, or you just don't know where to start, reach out because she can definitely help you. I'm going to put the information for Cindy below, so you don't need to memorize the phone number or the website. I'll put that information below, or you can just message me. I'll connect you directly. But this is such a good resource for Indianapolis and the northern suburbs. It's just a great resource, and I'm so glad I know you. And just thank you so much for letting me talk about your business today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it very much as well.
Of course. So I hope you have a great day. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.